All right, I'm continuing my lore request series. Let's talk about Spellshapers. There we go. The mechanical and flavor concept of a Spellshaper is pretty simple. Mechanically, it is always an ability that sort of simulates this creature casting a magic spell. Usually costs something, they have to tap and discard a card from your hand. Notably, I believe almost all of the time, the effect it creates is an effect created by an actual magic card. That's the mechanical execution. Flavorfully, there are a couple different explanations. In Mercadian Masks, at least, you have some peddlers, namely people who are selling you a one-use magic spell. You have some other cute nods like a bounce effect, the bouncer does a bounce effect. Or it's just a spellcaster of some kind who is very specific on one kind of spell. Bogwitch, for example, casts Dark Ritual. Now, there are in fact only 2 blocks in all of Magic history that have Spellshapers. The first is Mercadian Masks, the second is Time Spiral. And then, of course, March of the Machines had one, as a nod to Mercadia. There were only a few in Nemesis, which is the second set in the Masks block, and only a few in Prophecy, which was the last set of the block, although we did get Spellshaper Legends. We got Medjeda the Lion, who's a Zalfiran general who was leading the sort of coalition forces against the Keldans. He's still around, by the way. He was phased out with Zalfir, and he is mentioned in the March of the Machines story. Alexi was a Talarian mage who's originally from Jamura. Greel was just a strange creature. There were a lot of theories that he was like a Phyrexian creature, but that was mostly just fanon to try and better connect the Masks block to the invasion block. Latula was the Keldan who was leading the invasion of Jamura in Prophecy. And Jolrael was an important character from the Mirage War. She was one of the royal court mages of Zalfir before Teferi. However, she got sick of court politics and goes and just sort of hangs out in the jungle with animals. Time Spirals put some new twists on this. I'm not going to go into all the cards themselves. Oftentimes, the Spellshapers from Time Spiral are people who find themselves out of time, like an Acacian Crier, because Acadia was gone for a long time. Then, of course, there's Jaya's Ballard's card, and it happens to reference cards Jaya was on. For instance, the first one is half of a Pyroblast. Her second ability is Incinerate, and her third ability is Inferno. All cards she either appears on or is quoted in. I have a whole video on Jaya. I'm not going to get into her whole history. You can go check that one out. One of the other things this block did was use Spellshapers to create token versions of existing magic cards. So rather than replicating instant and sorcery spells, it is replicating creature spells. And then finally, more recently, when we see Mercadia again, we get a nod to the Spellshaper, and that is with Chiron Flamewright. And that's basically all there is to know about Spellshapers. There's some unique flavoring for them, but often it's just a character who has only mastered one kind of spell or is sort of like a planeswalker allowing you to cast a spell. The Jaya card feels like sort of a prototype planeswalker card, in which the flavor is loyalty. It's not their power and toughness, it's what they're willing to do for you. And it sort of feels like Spellshapers are similar. If you have your own lore request, let me know in the comments and I will add it to my list.